I'm Andy the Natural Couture.
I'm Stephan Bonner.
This is Canada Spider Grove.
I'm Cara Priesing.
This is Brandon Truth Vera.
Hey, I'm Ariane Celeste.
Yeah, I'm Chuck the Duck.
I'm Forrest Griffin.
I am Fyodor. You are watching MMA Fix.
Welcome to a special installment of the MMA Fix. My name is Dave Farra, and we're in the room of the almighty Bruce Buffer. How are you, man?
I got to do this. Almighty. Yeah, no, I feel great. Thank you very much. Nice introduction.
You know, it's nice to have you on the show. I've got to say that I enjoy some of the subtle things that you bring to the UFC. I mean, obviously the announcing is always superb, but some of the slight moves, the variations that I know you've been working hard on. Let's start by talking about the Buffer 180, because that's my favorite.
And the way that started was one night years ago, I happened to be looking at the red corner when I was about to announce the first fighter, which is in the blue corner. And I had my timing off, and I noticed that as I was about to say fighting out of the blue corner, I was looking to the right, and I'm thinking, now wait a minute, that split millionth of a second, I'm like, how am I going to correct this? And I shot over here like this, and that was the birth of the 180, and that's how it started.
Is there any fighters that you had a hard time getting excited about their name because they don't have a cool nickname, or they don't have some sort of just a long name that you can really enunciate and get into?
That's a good question, and I think somebody in your position would really know to ask that. That's a very good question. And yes, it does happen. And it's not that I'm not excited. It's like, how am I going to make this name exciting? I pray when the last name is a single syllable that they got some kind of a first name. But then you've got names like John Fitch. What do you do with John Fitch?
And he doesn't have a nickname. But we did an interview with him the other day, and he said that his unofficial nickname is Ooh-ah, because the Thais gave him that nickname when he was over there training because he threw up so much. And I actually told him that I wanted him to go by that nickname at least once, so that way you could announce it.
Hua?
It's Hua. Yeah.
Oh God, I'll blow that all over the place. Yes. Are you kidding? Hua! Yeah.
Perfect. All right, sorry. Go ahead though.
Yeah, but you know, this is where the body work and the movement and everything comes in, because you have to make this exciting for the fans. You have to make it exciting for the fighters. I do, if you watch the show, have a tendency to get close to the fighter when I'm announcing, to the point where even like you and I are right now. And I just do the best job I can, and you just try to draw it out. You know, I always say, you know, like me or hate me, I just try to do the best job I can.
Well, I know that you're a huge fan, so let's talk about UFC 94. We're actually taping this the night before the fight, so let's start with Stephan Bonner and Jon Jones. Jon Jones, a relative unknown. He's coming into this fight, fighting somebody who has a very solid career, but has been out for the past 15 months with a fairly serious injury. What do you think about this fight?
I don't know how Jon Jones fights, so I can't comment on his fighting ability, but what I noticed at the weigh-in, that he's very intense. See, I always look in the fighter's eyes. I can even be in the octagon announcing, and I don't want to name any names, but I can name some very popular individuals that I saw they weren't there that night.
Right.
They weren't there for that fight. It wasn't happening. This guy can't wait to show his stuff in the octagon. It's obvious. Stephan is a warrior. Stephan has been out for a while. If he doesn't have any kind of insecurity over his knee, and he feels his knee is 100%, one thing we know about Stephan Bonner is, just like in The Ultimate Fighter, the first one, when he had that amazing fight with Forrest Griffin, he is going to come out and he is going to give it his absolute all. So I think that's going to potentially be a very exciting, from what I understand, striking fight that night. So we will see. We might see a good stand-up war. And I've preached this for years to the fighters, and we've had our private dinners and stuff. You got to learn how to throw straight down the pipe. You got to learn how to knock out and get that boxer quality going. Sure, you can't stand there loose like a boxer, because you got to be worried about the shoot.
Right.
So it is an adjustment. But if you notice, it seems in the last couple of years, the knockout ratio is getting higher, the striking is getting higher. The guys are truly becoming well-rounded mixed martial artists, and that's what the sport's all about.
Well, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that the UFC is a place where you can actually make a lot of money now, and there's a lot to be said for putting on a good show. Clay Guida doesn't necessarily win every fight, but he gets in there and he gives his all, and as a result, the fans love him.
Yeah, but you're completely correct. And the other thing is that when you have a good fight in the octagon, there is bad fights and good fights, but when you have a good fight in the octagon, the loser can still come out a winner. You're never going to see an undefeated fighter in mixed martial arts in the entire career. They are going to lose at some point. You're dealing, instead of the Marquess of Queensberry rules of two weapons, which is a beautiful art in itself, a sport that I believe stands on its own. I'm not one to compare boxing to mixed martial arts. But in mixed martial arts, you've got over 20, 25 weapons. You never know what's going to happen. You can be losing the fight for 3 rounds, 5 rounds, in the last 20 seconds, as we see many times, get submitted, knocked out, whatever. This sport is it's an evolutionary process. These guys are just getting better. When you have Matt Hughes fight Royce Gracie at Staples, that was the night that it became new school versus old school.
Right,
a true example of that. When you had George St. Pierre fight Matt Hughes, That was the night that Matt Hughes became old school, George St. Pierre new school. So what we're involved in is a constant evolutionary process. I mean, there's a Darwinian theory here in MMA, and we're constantly seeing it. And that's what makes the sport, to me, one of the many things that makes it so exciting.
Tomorrow night, there's two guys
Yeah.
going head-to-head that are both undefeated. Both are very skilled, Thiago Silva and Lyoto Machida. And I've looked at the betting lines a little bit on this, and I don't know if you can comment on anything like that, but Lyoto Machida is a serious favorite. He's about a 3-1 favorite over Thiago Silva.
Lyoto is really 3-1?
Yep, a 3-1 favorite. So it's interesting to see how that actually breaks down and if that is going to be correct, because Thiago Silva, very dangerous striker and very dangerous on the ground.
Yeah, very dangerous all the way around. And plus you've got these guys, when they put their blood, sweat, and tears on the line, there's so much pride involved. There's a very proud group. And when you're undefeated coming in the way both these boys are, it's like I'd rather die than tap. I'd rather die than get knocked out. I'm not going to lose this fight. That fight's going to be pretty amazing. A lot of people say Lyoto, you know, some people think he's a little boring to watch at times, tentative. I never get that from him. I think the guy's a master. I think his ability to keep distance and his striking and to not take punishment, I mean, that's just a masterful fighting technique. Thiago Silva, I think, is going to be the first, aside from Houston, but the most highly skilled striker that Lyoto is going to face. And he's going to try and close the distance from the first time the bell goes off. And it's not going to be a fight of standing outside and waiting to shoot, you know, like a Tito Ortiz or doing whatever. He wants to get in there, he wants to brawl, he wants to mix it up, and he wants to taste Lyoto's blood. And he's going to do everything he can to do that.
You know, there's been a lot of good smack talking recently between George St. Pierre and BJ Penn. BJ says, we're going to fight to the death. I'm really going to be trying to kill you on Saturday night. And for some reason, I believe him.
Well, see, BJ is not going to show disrespect. It's just that if you understand BJ, I know BJ very well. And BJ is a Hawaiian warrior. The mentality of the Hawaiian warrior mentality that he has, he means exactly what he says. He would rather die than lose. When he says kill, he doesn't mean he wants to kill him. This is just his terminology for what he's going to do in this fight. But what you got to remember tomorrow night is, everybody's like, well, George St. Pierre, best pound-for-pound fighter. Anderson Silva, best pound-for-pound fighter. BJ Penn has the potential to hold 2 belts in the UFC simultaneously, which means he will have to defend 2 belts in the UFC. If he wins tomorrow night, will truly make him probably the best pound-for-pound fighter in mixed martial arts. He can't walk away from that label.
Well, and certainly it'll make history.
Big history. He knows that. He whispered that in my ear. He
Did he?
told me that. Yeah, BJ and I are good friends. I know exactly how he's thinking. George is great. George is a true warrior. He's got so much class. He brings so much to the octagon, so much to the sport. He's, you know, great-looking guy, great body, champion of the world, speaks English and speaks French. That's too much power for one man over the ladies, I think.
UFC 94 is going to be absolutely amazing. I'm pumped up about it. I've forgotten that the Super Bowl is this weekend, to be honest with you.
Yeah, there is something happening called the Super Bowl, isn't there?
I guess on Sunday or something.
Yeah,
Sunday or Monday.
I'll watch it after brunch.
Bruce, I've got to say it's been an honor to sit down and talk to you. It's really, really fun to see how into the sport you actually are, because you only get to see so much on the UFC broadcast, but knowing how much you're into this and what a fan you are really kind of brings it full circle.
I thank you very much for that. I appreciate the compliment or the observation. But the way it is for me is that, yes, I'm the voice of the octagon. Yes, I'm privileged to be the announcer for the UFC, but I'm a fan first. And honestly, when that passion and that fandom walks away, then I'll really seriously consider the fact it's probably time for me to step down, because I have to maintain that. That's what makes this whole thing so much fun for me. That's why I can't answer a question like, what do you not like? I love it all. I'd be foolish. There's 10,000 guys out there waiting for me to drop dead and take my job. Trust me. Ah, there we go.
10,001.
Let me have that locked bottle of water, not that open one, please. It's all good. But I like it so much that I'm starting to talk about it. I'm also a professional poker player, and I have a site called rumblepoker.com,
Nice.
if I can plug it. But
Please.
at bufferzone.net, which is my personal site, I have my blog, and I love now. I got into it a few months ago, and I really love writing, you know, my feelings about life and, you know, the UFC obviously being a huge topic there.
You're always very diligent, it seems, with returning fan email and stopping. I've actually seen you a couple of times stopping, shaking every single person's hand, taking every picture as you walk through a crowded lobby. So that says a lot about your character as well.
We would not be where we are without the fans. So it's all about the fans and the fighters. To me, I'm not even up there. I mean, I'm just do what I do. It's about the fans and the fighters, and I'm all about the fans and the fighters.
Bruce Buffer, I'm Dave Farra. Thanks for watching the MMA Fix. Yes.
Hi, I'm Bruce Buffer, the voice of the UFC Octagon, and you're watching MMA Fix.